So I've already recorded a video about my birth mother, but this video is about what my birth mother did to me and why I'm cutting her off forever. I never want anything to do with her ever again. I have a scar on my finger here from when I was unsupervised and my parents were drunk and stoned. That seemed to have caused nerve damage. That seemed to have caused such traumatic nerve damage that I developed a lazy eye. And she sent me to a clinic to get it fixed. And the fixing it was painful and difficult and, in my perspective, unnatural. You know, it should have been more focused on the person, not just the eye. I have a speech impediment because she constantly interrupts. And when she interrupts, if I try to continue, she yells at me. She forced me to learn to touch type at an early age with these injuries, with this numbness on my whole right side of my body that prevented me from using to learn my pinky properly. It could have been an opportunity for me to reintegrate with those nerves, but she kept saying, "You've got to learn to type 120 words per minute. That's how fast you should type. So you have to keep going until you can type that fast, and you have to be on this program." I learned to do it the wrong way because she wanted me to do it fast. Because, I had two fingers that couldn't keep up. So I just learned to not use them. And so I typed wrong. She sent me to a really traditional, misogynistic karate dojo where I broke my toe so badly that it was almost torn off, and where I was hit. I was hit by them. And when I cried, they acted like something was wrong because boys don't cry. She would constantly yell at me about how I didn't help her clean, but she never gave me the opportunity or instruction to clean. She'd always just say, "See here, do it this way. Do it this way." But I can't learn that way. I have to actually do the thing in order to learn it. And she would just tell me, "Stop it." I was, marked out as a gifted kid because of the way I absorbed information and my creativity. But that became a weapon too, because anytime I'd say, "I don't want to do this, I want to do this instead," she would tell me that I was stupid and say, "You'd better do that because I know best, because I'm your mother." I was constantly given gifts that I didn't want, and when I rejected them, she would blame me and call me a spoiled brat. I started to have night terrors where I was like, I just have to walk. I just have to go somewhere else. I just have to go very far away. But of course, I was a prisoner, just like everybody is a prisoner in this society. When I was 15, I finally found a teacher who I felt had some empathy and emotional connection to me. And I told her how bad it was. And she ratted me out to my parents and the administration. And that resulted in more humiliation, more indoctrination. She constantly indoctrinated me with her cult-like, bizarre, anti-soul, anti-free will version of Christianity. Really doubling down on you just have to read this one book, and this book will provide the perfect instructions for your life, because that's the dogma that's been fed to us. So we have to feed it to you, because if we don't, that would raise questions that we can't answer, that might be challenging. She would accuse me of not loving her if I didn't clean my plate. So I developed an eating disorder, a binge eating disorder, and bulimia. She would constantly fly into rages and act out, never quite domestic violence, but certainly the constant imminent threat of violence. When I graduated, she insisted that I not go to college. I had been accepted to college, and she forbade me to go. She said, You have to go to community college just like your father did, and you have to work too. My father didn't work through college. He had the GI Bill, and there was no shortage of money. She's wealthy. She was gifted a house in the San Francisco Bay Area by her husband's family. But for some reason, she expected me to do it all by myself. Because, well, you're so smart and you ought to be able to do it if you're such a genius. As a result, I went to work at a physically demanding job where I was given inadequate tools to do the job and forced to work as fast as possible, even through pain and even through nerve pain. And as a result, I can't properly grip with this hand. I hooked up in college with a person who I thought could support me through my transition. But what I didn't understand is that my ex-wife just thought I was crazy and that she could take advantage of me. When it was clear that it wasn't working to me, I tried to go to her as a confidant and say, I want out of this relationship, but I don't have enough space. She's draining my finances. She's taking my money and spending it. She refuses to get a job, and she refuses to try to get a job. And there came that Christian dogma again. Well, you've been living in sin, and you've been having sex with her. And once God makes a relationship, it's not our place to question it. You have to stay with her, because she's your woman. When I finally couldn't bear it anymore, and I actually came out, she told me, oh yeah, okay, but just don't take any hormones or get any surgeries because that's against God's plan. God made you perfect. And so she fought me when I went on hormones. She tried to use everything bad that would ever happen in my life. I was, maybe you should stop those hormones. They're messing with your head and making you act weird. When I would scrape together enough money to get a gender confirmation surgery, I haven't done the surgery, but I had a boob job and face job and butt lift, right? Every time I got one of those procedures, she would beg me to not go through with it. And when I finally broke with my ex-wife, she provided me no help. In fact, she berated me so much that I agreed to onerous, unequal terms in the divorce. And it's hobbling me financially even today. When I fell in love, she could do nothing but bitch and moan and groan. When I told her how I love, which is creative and passionate and plural, she never stopped berating me. She never stopped telling me how unnatural my lifestyle was. Anytime I'd try to confide with her about interpersonal problems, I have very few people that I can actually talk to about stuff, which is part of the reason why I have this channel. She would encourage me to capitulate, just like she did with my ex-wife. And talk, you need to realize that we're all God's children. We're all a part of God, and it's our duty to love each other. Apparently, she's such a nasty, narcissistic, belligerent, violent woman that she has to keep that in her head. It's like the bulwark that prevents her from being completely rejected by everyone around her. Like most boomers, she's obsequiously nice to everyone and then badmouths them behind her back. She's the prototypical Karen. She has a Karen haircut. She constantly filled me with right-wing dogma all my life. And when I finally set a boundary with her and said, I don't want you preaching to me. I don't want this. We have different values, and you just need to accept that I'm different. She said, I can't. I just feel like you're a part of myself because I love you so much. I eventually got her to begrudgingly agree to not proselytize to me about religion. And she couldn't keep that boundary either. She said, well, you're still a Christian, aren't you? And then I just couldn't. I had been practicing demonology for about a year, and it was like the light breaking in the dawn in my life. I don't want to get super into past life stuff or any of that. That's specious. I don't really remember things, but I am something. You know, I grew up like practicing witchcraft when I was like 4. I grew up trying to find familiars and practicing clairvoyance and clairaudience and practicing like deep meditation. I just did it because I was like, well, this is what you should do, right? Like, this is just how people get to bed, isn't it? You know, like, it's just how I get to bed. Even today, that's how I get to bed. I like go into a little trance. Otherwise, I can't sleep. It's awful. You know, it's very rare that I can actually fall asleep. I have to be dead tired. And then I told her, you know, when she was asking me, "You're still a Christian, aren't you?" I said, we shouldn't talk about that. You know, I believe in the inherent goodness and divinity of all beings. I believe that religion has value, and things like prayer and meditation work. And we shouldn't really say more than that because we just believe very different things. And then on Easter, on Good Friday, she texts me some Christian garbage. And I was just like, I never want to speak to you again. And so I just blocked her. And she sent me little I love yous and shit. And they're all going in the garbage can. You know, there's absolutely nothing she can say that would make me believe that she could be different. Part of the real break was when the Trump administration started violating Fifth Amendment rights, among all the other rights they're violating. And she was like, oh, you know, those people are really dangerous. We got to keep them out of our country. She loves Trump so much. She's positively, like, her pussy is positively wet for Trump. You know, she just wants that big, strong man. And I sat on it and iterated. And, you know, sent my final letter to her. Like, this is what's up. Goodbye. I'm not in the family anymore. It was actually kind of funny. I was telling a kid, oh yeah, you know, like, you can totally change your name. Like, you just fill out some forms. Like, I'm getting my whole name changed, like, including the last name. This was before I had decided to break with her. And he's like, oh, do you have problems with your family? Does your family not love you? Because the only reason someone would do that, change their family name, is if they didn't want to be a member of their family anymore. And I didn't. You know, he hit the nail on the head. Every time I would look at my name, the full thing, you know, even now that I've put in the petition and made the decision, just looking at my name makes me angry. And now, after 4 fucking decades, I'm finally sometimes not having flashbacks to her yelling at me and berating me and calling me stupid, calling me a brat, you know, saying that there was something wrong with me. I would hear those things all day in my head. And it's finally going away. I'm finally letting myself type slowly so I can learn to use this finger. I'm finally letting myself walk slowly so that I can heal my foot. I'm giving myself the space that I need to heal. And I finally am healing, you know? Like, I don't know, like, I'm finally learning to trust my body. What I wanted more than anything else when I was a teenager was to be a musician. And now I sing every day. I would run around the house singing show tunes when I was 8 years old, singing Disney songs, Disney princess songs. After a lot of begging, I got a guitar when I was 17. And she wouldn't allow me to use the amplifier. She said, you have to play unplugged. It's too loud. It's annoying. It hurts my ears. She wasn't willing to listen to a kid play badly for 6 months in order to learn to play beautifully. And she can't see beauty. Like there's something wrong with her, right? Like, when people say, you know, like, music was better in my day, or when, like her, she just watches the same movies over and over again. And Fox News, of course, Fox News. That's not normal, right? Like, yeah, like, I have some stuff that I watch all the time. I have some books that I read a lot, but I'm growing, right? I'm always looking for the next thing. I'm waiting for the next season of Has Been Hotel, like you wouldn't believe, because I'm going to learn all of Charlie's songs and all of the girl songs. She's got 2 children who don't want to speak to her, you know? My half-sister, who I will also never talk to again because she's a belligerent narcissist. Won't talk to her. They're like low contact, gray rock. That's the only solution that she's been able to find. She says shit like, "Oh, I must be the worst fucking mother in the world to have kids who hate me so much." And it was never that I hated her. It's that she never listened to me at all. From the moment I was born, she told me who I was. She told me what to be because she believes in this tabula rasa bullshit, this narcissistic fantasy that she made me, so I'm hers. She knows nothing about the real me. She doesn't care. I'm a stranger to her. The real me is a stranger to her. When I started training my voice, she was like, "Why are you talking like that? Talk with your normal voice. It's great." And by the way, some of these tidbits, you might think, wow, that sounds like, repressed trans mask energy. I completely agree, right? She spent her whole life writing every assigned male birth person in sight, as if she knew how to be a man. I've been living in my place for like 15 years or something. She's never been here. She won't come? Oh, it's probably just too messy for me. She knows nothing about me. When I would try to express myself through art, she would criticize every piece. And when I would draw women, when I would draw the type of woman that I wanted to be, she'd say, "Well, don't draw women like that. Women don't like that stuff." I have walked away from everything that she was supposedly going to will to me, which I sorely need. I don't like whining. I don't like begging. I'm not an internet beggar. I'm gonna earn my keep. Whatever I have. I'm not gonna be there when she dies. Honestly, it was more obligation that was keeping me in that relationship than anything else. It was knowing what a sad little friendless person she is. She has no friends, like she has Fox News. And I wanted to be there for her in her final moments. And I'm not going to be there. I don't know if anyone's going to be there for her. There really is something wrong with a lot of boomers. Maybe it was the lead paint. I think it was mass culture, personally, and competition and dogma and underhandedness and fakeness, television, like she would always complain that I watched too much television. What she was really complaining about was that I would sometimes watch television and that would eat into her Fox News viewing time. I never feel safe. The computer was like my only safe place. And she, on the one hand, encouraged me to use the computer because it might get me like a career as an engineer. Oh, you gotta just get a job at Google, get a job at a big company, and get a secure future, get a house, get yourself a mortgage, and you'll be set. That's what all of these boomers think. They all think that we're just stupid, that we're just lazy. That is complete projection. They are stupid and lazy. Incredibly. You know what I mean. Not every boomer. Not like there are a couple of cool boomers. I ran into a cool boomer at a coffee shop. She complimented me and my girlfriend's outfits. And was like, "Oh, where are you coming from an event?" And I'm like, "Nope, we just dress like this. We're goths." And then we started talking about travel and pastries and stuff. And she recommended me a spot. That's how people talk to each other. They talk to people as if there might be something to discover there. But she's got this whole mindfuck religion that's just an excuse to invalidate other people, to invalidate their experiences, to push them away. I'm never looking back. If by some miracle she makes it over to my place, which is not far from her, I'll throw her out I'm going to throw her out like the trespasser that she is. I think, the reason that so many people in my generation have CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, look it up, boy, we're all kinds of messed up. It's not because we lacked for video games or fast food or any of that stuff. It's because we were prisoners. We have a prison mentality. It's fucked us up. But now that those ties are breaking, now that they are dying, Maybe we can finally do some good in this world.